Our task is to write the truth table of the logical statement if P and Q, then P or Q. Yes, that is how we read this logical statement. Since we're looking for the truth table, let us identify first the number of rows needed using the formula 2 to the power of n, which gives us here 2 squared because we only have two forms of statements here, P and Q, which would give us 4 rows. Okay, so our rows needed for our truth table would just be 4, excluding the header using these headers here. So we are going to add here the 4 rows for our 2 columns here. So we have 1, 2, 3, and then 4. That would be for both columns of P and Q. Now, of course, P and Q as headers are not actually counted together with the 4 rows. They are actually excluded from that. So we have here the 4 rows. To complete that, let's start first by placing the truth value for the P and Q statements before we could complete the truth table. We have here true, true, false, and false for our P statement. And to complete the combinations, our Q here would be true, false, true, and then false. You can see that we have 4 different pairs here of truth values for both our P and Q statement. Now, to come up with our truth table, let's attack this logical statement part by part. Let's start first with the P and Q statement. This is actually a conjunction between P and Q statements. So let's add here another column for that specific statement. So we have here 4 rows as well. And take note, this is actually conjunction. We have P and Q. For this, we just need both statements to be true in order for us the conjunction to be true. Because if we talk about and, both statements must be true for the entire statement to be true. I'm talking about the first row, true and true. So we have here true. However, for the next few rows, since it contains 1 false, or even the last row will have 2 false statements, automatically the conjunction would be false, false, and false. So please take note of that for our conjunction. Our next column here would be for the next statement, the then statement of our main operator, the if then, which is actually the operation P or Q. This is a disjunction. At this time, we have or situation. That would mean, looking back at the first 2 columns, if we only have 1 true statement for disjunction, it makes the disjunction true. So for the first row, we have true and true. This is now true. Now, for our second row, we have true and false. It contains 1 true statement. Automatically, the disjunction is also true. Next, since we have here another true statement, so this is true. However, for our last row, since both statements are actually false, automatically your disjunction is also false. Okay, so already have this as part of our logical statement. The last column to be added here would be the entire logical statement. If P and Q, then you will have here P or Q. So this would be our last column containing all the necessary connections and relationships between the already identified columns previously. So we have here 1, 2, 3, and 4 rows as well. Now, take note, the main operation here is actually the if-then statement. And let's try to review the conditional statement. This is only true if, first, both statements, P and Q, or in this case, the P and Q and the P or Q are of the same truth value. Automatically, the if-then statement or the conditional statement is true. Second, if we have, let's have the second later on. I'm talking about the same truth value. So looking at this, the first column, or first row rather, have the same truth value. So automatically this is true. Similarly, for this last row, they have the same truth value, false. Automatically the if then statement is also true. Okay. Now, looking at the second and third rows, they are of the same relationship. Looking at these two, we have false, true, and false, true. What would be the truth value for that? Take note that for conditional statement, if the conclusion or the then statement is true, no matter what would be your hypothesis or your first statement, the entire if then statement or conditional statement is automatically true. So we have here if false then true, if false then true. So this is also true. Okay? So we have here our final column. This is a truth table for the logical statement if P and Q, then P or Q. Don't forget to like and share our videos, leave a comment, and reasonably subscribe to our channel.